While the Carolina Hurricanes are off for the next couple of days, it's time to catch up on the newer guys to the team and seeing how Taylor Hall, Logan Stankoven, and Mark Jankowski have been since their addition to the Hurricanes this season. It should be a lot of fun because, hey, these new guys are pretty dang good.
Your Locked On Hurricanes, your daily podcast on the Carolina Hurricanes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to a Thursday edition of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you to the Everydayer for making this your first listen of the day. 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, talking everything about Carolina Hurricanes. I'm your host, Zach Martin. I'm the credentialed Carolina Hurricanes beat writer over at the Hockey Writers. I'll also do some AHL coverage over at the Calder Times, even doing some baseball stuff at Cover the Corner for SB Nation. I'm also the co-host of the Surge Cast, which is a weekly Carolina Hurricanes podcast, along with all my duties here at Locked On Hurricanes. Got a terrific Thursday edition of the podcast as we kind of look at how Taylor Hall, Logan Stankoven, and Mark Jankowski have been since they've been added to the roster this season. Of course, with Taylor Hall being added back in January during the massive trade between Colorado, Chicago, and the Hurricanes. Also going to take it Logan Stankoven and Mark Jankowski and see how they've been doing since being added at the trade deadline. So should be a fun show as we're going to do Hall, Stankoven, and then we're going to finish up with Jankowski. Now, we're going to kick off with Taylor Hall, like I said. With the Carolina Hurricanes right now, if you look at the total points for the entire team, Taylor Hall is actually fifth on the team in points with 36, 16 goals, 20 assists. He is a -8, but that has gotten a lot better, since, when he was with the Chicago Blackhawks. But when you look at, he also has 4 power play goals and 2 game-winning goals. And the thing with his 4 power play goals, 3 of them have come since the game when they were in Philadelphia against the Flyers. And in addition to the fact that, he has 4 power play goals, 3 of them being most recently, is that when you look at his, season overall, and even in the last 5 games, in the last 5 games for Taylor Hall since basically the start of the road trip and that first game against Nashville back home, he has 5 goals and 2 assists for 7 points in the last 5. And in fact, you look at this time on ice, 15:20, 17:04, 15:49, 14:41 against the Ducks where he got the hat trick. Even against Nashville, 19 minutes and 18 seconds. So you're seeing he's right between that 14 to 17 range, but he's definitely getting those numbers, and that's because of the production that he's been putting up with the Hurricanes since he came over. So in 21 games with the Canes, he's got 7 goals, 5 assists for 12 points. So for the fact that you're looking at just even the last 5 games where he's gotten 5 goals and 2 points, that's really good to see him in the last 5. But just overall, when you see 7-5 for 12 points, here's the crazier part. When he was with the Chicago Blackhawks, he had 9 goals, 15 points, or 15 assists for 24 points in 46 games. Just in 21 with the Hurricanes, he's got 7 goals. He's only 2 shy of what he did in 46 games with the Blackhawks, and he's only 12 points shy of what he's done at points-wise with them. And this is what is really hitting home. You see the stark contrast. I mean, nothing against the Blackhawks. They're just a team who's still in rebuild mode. But they look at where Carolina's is a contending team who's firmly securing a playoff spot. He is a +7 with the Canes in 21 games, and he was a -15 in Chicago in the 46 games he played with them this season. That is a huge difference. You're talking a 22 plus-minus difference between the two sides, and obviously that's why he's at the -8 because he's trying to overcome that -15. But just looking at the difference of, if you look at, like I said, a -15, just go back to even then that +7. That really shows you where you've seen that massive difference between that side of things. And even with the power play goals, he had 1 power play goal and 3 power play points with the Blackhawks. So far with the Canes, how about 3 power play points and 3 power play goals? He's definitely putting some numbers up, and that's looking at the fact, too, is he averaged 14 minutes and 59 seconds on ice with the Blackhawks. And then he's averaging 15, 18 with the Carolina Hurricanes. That's with him getting a lot more top six ice time over the last few games. And you look at his shot total. Yes, it's down. It's 82 over 46 games. But he's got 43 shots in 21 games. His shooting percentage, 11% with the Hawks compared to 16.3 with the Carolina Hurricanes. And, when you're looking at a guy who's mainly a winger but also has to do some faceoffs, how about 53.8 to 44.4? That really shows you the fact of, you look at Taylor Hall going from the Blackhawks to the Hurricanes. And like I said, nothing against Chicago. Like I said, there's just a team that's in the middle of another rebuild season. They're trying to, get draft picks, get better players and stuff like that. But you're seeing face-off totals. When you have, Rod Brindamore, who's, the guy who's won Selkies, who's, was driven on winning face-offs. You have Jordan Stahl, who's another guy that runs off of face-offs. And then you see Taylor Hall coming in. He's up over 50% already on his face-offs. And he's a guy who's mainly a winger. But his shooting percentage, when you look at 46 games in Chicago at 11 to where 21 in Carolina, he's 16.3. He's at a 5.3 shooting percentage difference when overlooking a 25 game difference between Carolina and Chicago. And for me, you look at it he kind of started in the bottom six, power play 2, worked his way up into the top 6, worked his way up to PP1, and now you've seen the power play score 3 power play goals since the Philly game back on March 15th. So you're talking a 5-game difference of the power play having 3 power play goals, and it's all from Taylor Hall. And he scored the last 4 goals for the Hurricanes in the last 2. Talk about being hot at the right time and being the guy who can kind of help unlock a power play. I mean, he's a first overall pick for a reason. He's a former MVP for a reason. And the fact that his career got rejuvenated in Boston too, after being in Buffalo. And Taylor Hall has really set himself up to be a guy that you as an organization of the Carolina Hurricanes can go and be like, hey, we want to keep you here because you've bought in right from the jump. 21 games in with Carolina, dating back to January 24th, when they were on a road trip with they had to play the Islanders and then the Rangers. He has come in right from the get-go and has automatically bought in. He was bought in the Islanders game, and they barely had any practices, but he's never slowed down. Every game you've seen the impact. Maybe he's not early on. He wasn't scoring. He wasn't really getting a lot of assists, but you can see the effort level every single night. And he was on What Chaos with G.J. Burns and Pete Blackburn, and he even said, I'm tired of moving around. It's very odd to see a first overall pick move around as much as he has, and he has the acumen. He's got the points and stats to back it up. It's just whatever reason all these teams want to get him, and teams just don't want to. The teams trade him away. And he says he's hoping to find one place to stay at, and that's it. And he's hoping it's Carolina. And honestly, that was not even a week or 2 into being with the Hurricanes that I want to be here. I'm hoping this is my team for the next few seasons, and I don't have to keep moving. If Taylor Hall, 2 weeks into his tenure, is already saying, hey, I want to stay in Carolina, and the fact that he's produced every single night, maybe it's not on the score sheet. More recently it has been, because he even told Hannah Yates that it takes about guys 10 to 15 to 20 games to get acclimated to the system and get acclimated to a new team. And you finally hit that stride. He's finally hit that stride, and you're seeing what you're getting out of a guy who's unlocked his former Boston self, where he, like I said, he's got 7 goals and 5 assists. He's talking about 12 points in 21 games. That's really good for a guy who's been with the team for a quarter of a season, and he's a +7 already. That's talk about instant impact. And if you're the Carolina Hurricanes, I've said it on yesterday's show, I've said it on the last few shows, and I even mentioned it on social media. If you want to check that out, once you're Zach on X. But it's you extend Taylor Hall. This is a guy you give a contract to. He's at an age where, he's been around for a little bit. He's 33 years old, but this is a guy you could easily give a contract to, slide him into your top 6, slide him into your first power play unit, and you're good to go. You've got a veteran guy who's been there and done that, been to the playoffs, was an MVP, was a first overall pick, and he's got the acumen, he's got the talent. He's bought into the system, and he's fitting in quite well. Give him a 3x3. Give him a 3x4.5. That'd be a great contract. I would even go to 4.5 if you really want to. But a 3x3 or 3x4.5 takes him to 36. Okay, sign me up for another 3 seasons of Taylor Hall. I would love to have him here and be a guy that you can easily see produce in the top 6 role. Him and Kotkaniemi have been great together. So it just makes sense to extend Taylor Hall. You're talking about a guy who, maybe he's been a lot around longer than Logan Stankoven and Mark Jankowski, but he's a guy this year that right from day one has been bought in. And we've had a lot of guys recently that came in that kind of, bought into the system, but took a bit more time. Same thing for Taylor Hall, but he's doing it in an impactful way where you're like, throw this guy a contract. Let's do it. Keep him here now. And the way Taylor Hall's been, sign me up for another 3 seasons of him. Now, he has been here the longest out of the 3 new guys on the roster, but what about the newer guys? The guys who are here at the trade deadline. And the very big name from the trade deadline day was Logan Stankoven. And how's he been doing so far with the Carolina Hurricanes, in his first few games, in his defined rookie season. So stick around as I will talk about Logan Stankoven here in a second on a Thursday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. If you're like me, your mornings have to start with a good cup of coffee, but I got tired of selling for grocery store brands that just weren't cutting it. That's why I turned to Trade. And let me tell you, this coffee is next level. Trade is the #1 specialty coffee marketplace in the U.S., bringing new fresh coffee from over 50 of the country's top roasters. Their experts have taste tested thousands of coffees, carrying over 450 amazing roasts. Whether you're new to coffee or know what you like, they'll handpick the perfect match for you. And for me, I really like Atomic's Space Cadet coffee. It's really good. It's got such a rich flavor to it, and it gives you different styles of flavors you would never think to have in a coffee. I got the grounds for it. Great. Just throw in the coffee maker, make a cup of coffee, add a little cream to it. And honestly, it was probably the best tasting coffee I've ever had. And I could not highly recommend Atomic's Space Cadet. It is absolutely phenomenal. I know you guys will definitely like it as much as I did. So right now, Trade is exclusively offering our listeners 40% off your first order at drinktrade.com/LockedOnNHL. That's drinktrade, TRADE.com/LockedOnNHL for 40% off your first order. Once again, drinktrade.com/LockedOnNHL. Welcome back to segment 2 of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day. So we talked about Taylor Hall in the first segment where he's 5th on the team in points, been really on fire as a late scoring, 4 straight goals for the Carolina Hurricanes, 3 power play goals as well since dating back to March 15th against the Philadelphia Flyers. But that being said, how are the other new additions to the Hurricanes doing? Well, for Logan Stankoven, he is actually tied for 7th on the team in points with 33 with Jordan Staal. Of course, Logan Stankoven in 67 games this season, 10 goals, 23 points for the 33. He is a +2, has 2 power play goals and 5 game-winning goals. But how are his stats with the Carolina Hurricanes in particular? Well, the 22-year-old, in his rookie season, it's crazy to think that the Hurricanes picked up a kid who was drafted 47th overall back in the 21 draft by the Dallas Stars. But in his last 5 games with the Hurricanes, how about 3 assists? Against Philadelphia, 1 against the Kings, and 1 against the Ducks. Total ice time average over the last 5 games, how about 15:48, 12:49, 16:44 against the Kings, 12:55 against the Ducks, and then 14:54 against the Nashville Predators. So far this season, he's got 59 games played, 9 goals, 20 assists for 29 points with the Dallas Stars. He was a +2, averaging over 15 minutes and 6 seconds for game winners, 6.1 shooting percentage, and all that good stuff. But since coming over to the Carolina Hurricanes, he's only played 8 games. The Hurricanes got him at the trade deadline. Still going to take him some time to get used to the system. I know Dallas plays somewhat the same style, but, still a little different though. We talk about Ryan Brind'Amour, Tim Gleason, Jeff Daniels, Paul Schauffelder, the whole group in general is a little bit different than Dallas. But in his 8 games, he does have a goal. So, hey, go in your debut against the Jets, Can't complain about that. Also, the 3 assists over the last 5 games, well, he's got those. Now he has 4 points in 8 games. He does have a power play goal for his lone power play point, but hey, you know what? They don't ask how, they ask how many, and he's got one. Average ice time, it's a little bit short. It's a little bit, down compared to Dallas. Dallas is 15:06. He's at 14:45, and that's mainly because he's been playing with Jordan Staal and Jordan Martin a little bit more. And, he's on a switching between PP1 and PP2. So his numbers are a little bit down. Rod doesn't really number his lines, but with Logan Stankoven being with the Jordans, he's going to have, maybe a little bit lesser numbers because they don't get played. They get played a fair amount, but you're talking about a line who's mainly taking care of the bigger names and stuff like that. But he does have 19 shots with the Hurricanes so far. He's at a 5.3% shooting percentage, which is a little bit down from his 6.1, but you're talking like 19 shots with the Hurricanes compared to 148 with the Dallas Stars. So you've got to give Logan Stankoven a little bit of leeway, especially for the fact that he's in his first full season with the Stars, because he played 24 games last year after being called up from the Texas Stars, and he had 14 points in 24 games. But this is essentially his rookie season overall, and his first full season in the NHL. So take with a small grain of salt that it's a little bit different for him. He's an even player right now for the Hurricanes, but like I say, he's only played 8 games. He's not like Taylor Hall, who's played over 20 already. Big difference coming from January 24th to March 7th. I mean, we're only on March 26th. We've only played 8 games with Logan Stankoven, but you go and trade for this guy. You give up Mikko Rantanen. You get Logan Stankoven 2 firsts and 2 thirds, and you got this guy locked up in the ELC, and you got him through this season and next season too. And you're in a good spot where he's 22 years old. He's a year younger than Seth Jarvis. Those guys know each other, pretty decently. But I mean, Seth Jarvis took him out for dinner as well and kind of taken him under his wing as the newer, younger guy on the team. But the Hurricanes go get him for a reason. He's 5'8", but he plays bigger than he is. He's a bulldog. He's got a high motor. He's always trying to make plays. And the fact that, 8 games in, you can see he's still trying to work his way into the system, like, with Taylor Hall. Taylor Hall took him 10, 15 games to get used to the system. That's going to be the same way for Logan Stankoven, too, especially when, like I said, it's a rookie season for this guy. It's going to take a little bit of time to get used to it, but the fact that you got him under control through this season and next season, and he's going to be an RFA, so you got his rights, and you're going to give him an extension because the guy's young. He's got a high ceiling. He can score goals. He ripped it up in the AHL with the Texas Stars. He was the AHL Player of the Year. He has a lot of records with the Kamloops Blazers of the Western Hockey League, too, and that's really saying something. He was a captain. He's from Kamloops. He's a guy that is used to scoring goals. He's used to being a prolific player, so that's what you're getting out of him. It's just going to take a little bit of time, but, I mean, you got 4 points in 8 games. That's not bad joining the Carolina Hurricanes in your rookie season where you got 0.5 points per game. He's scoring at a half a point per game. You'll gladly take that out of a guy who's new to the system, played a little bit in the top 6, but has played a majority of the games with the Jordans on a shutdown line that's going up against the bigger names in the NHL. So that's a lot of praise to give a kid like that. Like, hey, we're going to put you with the Jordans, and you're going to be going up against guys like, at certain point, I know so far this season, but you're looking at like an Anze Kopitar and Adrian Kempe, those guys over there in LA. Then you have to take care of the Ducks, and then you play the Predators, but you also had to play a lot of other teams too. I mean, you're talking about you had to play Detroit, you had to play the Jets, you had to play. It's like you're giving this kid a lot of opportunity to see what he can do, and you're seeing it from him. And the fact that already early on, he's producing towards, okay, he's new, let's let him figure out the system, but he's getting the points, though. And you see his effort every night. He has no quit. This is another guy the Hurricanes brought in that Eric Tulsky said when he was with Jeff Merrick on the sheet. Everyone in the organization saw that this dude is built like a Carolina Hurricane. 200-foot game, no quit, is not afraid to throw the body, and plays the style that Rod Brind'Amour wants, and that's why they go traded for him. And it's like I said, it's going to take time, but that's why you go get him. That's why you go and bring him in. You develop him in your system. You get him acclimated, and you got the rest of this season. You got the playoffs. You got all of next year too. You give him an extension when he's 23, and then you're off to the races with another young guy that fits into the core of a Blake, Aho, Jarvis, Kotkaniemi, Svechnikov, Kochekov. And you're not talking about the other guys you got coming up too. Morrow, Nadeau. You got Nikisha coming over at some point. So you're adding Logan Stankoven to a young core of really great players that opens the window for the Hurricanes for the next decade or more, like another half decade to a decade of opportunities to go and do something. So, I mean, just like Taylor Hall, Logan Stankoven's been brought, he's been bought in since day one. A lot of guys have already, brought him under their wings, and you can tell that he is going to fit this system well. It's just going to take time. I mean, you're talking 8 games. It takes a little time, but I'm definitely excited to see what Logan Stankoven can do. Now, the other guy who was acquired on the trade deadline, of course, after the deadline was done because it was a late, trade that was called in. They had to do a lot of the paperwork. But this guy has been on absolute fire for the Carolina Hurricanes since day one, and that's Mark Jankowski. So stick around as we'll be talking about Janko here in a second on a Thursday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job posts seen on other sites. Indeed sponsored jobs puts your post at the top of the page and help you reach the right candidates faster. Now you can speed up your hiring process with a $75 sponsored job credit. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, well, Indeed is all you need. Welcome back to segment 3 of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day. So we talked about Taylor Hall in segment 1, just talked about Logan Stankoven in segment 2. Now let's talk about Mark Jankowski. And Mark Jankowski on the Carolina Hurricanes is 17th on the entire team in points. He does have 15, 10 goals, 5 assists. He's a +5 on the season in 49 games this year. But here's the thing, though, and this is what the crazy part is about the guy they got from Nashville. Gave him a 5th-round draft pick for him, 30 years old, and they got him through this season, and they got him through next season as well. So you go and trade a guy who's 6'4", 30 years old, 212 pounds, he's a first-round pick back in 2012 with the Calgary Flames at 21st overall. The thing with him is, though, in his last 5 games with the Hurricanes, how about the fact that he's got 4 goals in the last 5? Like, my goodness, Mark Jankowski. And he's doing this and this is his time on ice where he's doing all this work. Philadelphia, 2 goals in 10 minutes and 43 seconds. 1 goal against the Kings at 14:25, and he's got a goal against the Ducks at 9:34 of ice time. His other 2 games, how about 8:28 against the Sharks and then 10:45 against Nashville? Yeah, the fact that he's gotten this many goals on his limited minutes is absolutely insane. Because you look at the Nashville Predators, 4 goals, 5 assists for 9 points in 41 games, and he was even this season. His average time on ice, how about 12:43? 45 shots. He was an 8.9% shooting percentage. Of course, he's a center as well, and for Nashville, he won 50.7% of his faceoffs. With Carolina, it's down a little bit, 46.2, but I mean, he's a 4th-line center. You got him through this season. You got him through next season. You've got a guy who's got some experience because, he's played 41 games this year for Nashville. Last year, 32. 22-23, he played 50. Played for Pittsburgh back in 2021 for 45 games. Then's played 72, 79, and 56 in his 3 full seasons in Calgary. So he's been there and done that. He's played 403 games, 8 of those being in Carolina. But this is a crazier stat. Like I said, 4 goals, 9 points in 41 games with the Predators before he got traded to Carolina. How about in 8 games, 6 goals? In the first 4 games, he had 4 goals on 4 shots, which is crazy to think about. He was even with Nashville, he's now a +5 in 8 games. Of course, it does help when you score 6 goals. Hey, you'll take that any way you can do it. And the thing, too, is none of these are on the man advantage. All of these are even strength. Remember how I said he had 12 minutes and 43 seconds in Nashville time on ice? How about 10 minutes and 16 seconds? And this is the thing that Rod Brindamore said after this most recent game against Nashville. He wants to find more time for Mark Jankowski. Mark Jankowski is on the second power play and played a little bit of PP1 as well on the road trip. But this guy is so on fire with his shot right now. Like I said, he was at 8.9% with the Nashville, 4 goals in 41 games. He's at 6 goals in 8 games. The shots in Nashville, 45, 4 goals. In Carolina, how about 6 goals on 9 shots? He's at a 66.7% shooting percentage. 66.7%. There's one point he was 100% in 4 games because he took 4 shots and scored 4 goals. He almost went 5 for 5. He almost went 5 for 5 against the Sharks. Like, that's insane. But the fact that you're talking about a guy who's on a huge sustained run, and I've already talked about the last guy who scored 6 and 7 games with Devontae Smith-Pelly with New Jersey back in 2019. That's the most latest hot start a guy's ever had with a new team. And you're seeing with Mark Jankowski and another guy who's automatically bought right in. It goes to show that Eric Tulsky and his pro scouts know what they're doing. Hey, this guy's really good in Nashville. Analytically, he's great. He's a big body, a fourth line center that we definitely need right now. You know, nothing against Jost, nothing against Jaska and all these other guys, but you're looking for a bona fide fourth line center who's got some NHL experience. Mark Jankowski's got these. Like I said, he's in his career has already played over 400 games. Of course, 8 of those 403 have most recently been with the Hurricanes. So he was north of 390 by the time the Hurricanes got him. He's been there and done that. Let's go get him. And you gave up a 5th rounder to go pick this guy up. Has the most insane start already. Is he going to sustain this? Probably not. But hey, you'll gladly take that when this guy comes in and automatically is already a fan favorite because he's ripping goals like he's Wayne Gretzky or Wayne Jankowski at this point. That's just how good he is. But like I said, this buys into you go get guys that you think will be players that will come in, pull on the same rope, do what the coaching staff is asking for and playing the system and being bought in. Mark Jankowski's been bought in, just like Logan Stankoven's been bought in, and just like Taylor Hall's been bought in. And this has been a known fact with the Rod Brindamore system. If you are bought in, you'll thrive in Carolina. You will do a good job here in Carolina, and you'll find your time on the ice. If you aren't bought in, you usually won't last very long. And that's not including the guys, like Trocheck and Shea and Pesci and Nason who will go and leave because they're getting their money. Hey, congratulations to you guys. Can't fault you for that. Wish you the best of luck. That's understandable for guys like that. But guys, and they were bought into the system. But guys who aren't bought into the system, you don't last very long in Carolina. It just is what it is. And no ill will against them, but it's just if you're not bought in, you're just not bought in. But when you look at guys like Hall, over 20 games, Stankoven in 8 games, Mark Jankowski in 8 games, bought in from the rip, and you're seeing the success. 6 goals in 8 games. Hey, thank you very much. We really appreciate that. Let's keep it rolling. Oh, and we got you next year too? Great. Just like Logan Stankoven, you're going to get a full training camp with the Hurricanes, a full summer with the Canes, and those 2 guys, and they're both here through next season. And honestly, with the fact that Mark Jankowski's only 30, and he'll be 31 by the sometime next season, just like Stankoven, give him a contract. Both those guys are going to be at the end of their contracts after next season. If they're still bought in and doing a great job at the end of next year, I know Stankoven's going to get extended, but if Mark Jankowski's playing really well and he's bought in and you feel really good about him being your 4th line center, give him a contract too. He's making under $1 million. Shoot. Give him $1 million and a half, even 2 for all I care. The cap's going up. Pay the guy. Won't hurt if he's a good 4th line center, if he just resembles anything of a guy that we are seeing right now, even if he gets you 30, 35 points. Great. I'll take 30 points off a 4th line center who's averaging 10 to 12 minutes a game. If he's bought in and doing his job, that's all you really care about. So what a way for the Hurricanes to bring in these 3 guys that, aren't the flashy names of a Mikko Rantanen. But hey, like I said, Taylor Hall's a 1st overall pick for a reason, a former MVP. Logan Stankoven, 1 in Kamloops. Absolutely killed it with the Texas Stars. Good on him. Mark Jankowski is getting himself a 400-game career already. He's 30 years old, and he's a 21st overall pick with the Flames back in 2012. But hey, he's carved out a career. But you get these three guys in their body, and the Hurricanes are winning. Yeah, the Nashville game, it stinks because he played 3 games in 4 days with travel. But they threw everything in the kitchen sink at Saros. Didn't really do anything. But you go on the road, you take 6 of 8. You're on an 8-game heater with these 3 guys involved. You got guys that bought in. You love to see it. And I'll say this: these 3 additions the Hurricanes have brought in, hey, these guys are pretty great. What a way for the Hurricanes to come out of no one wants to stay here. This team isn't good. They're not going to be in contention anymore. Can't really say much when you went on an 8-game heater and then you go on a road trip and take 6 out of a possible 8. Not mad about that at all. And I know we got the Habs playing on Friday. Start a new streak. It's all that really matters. And the fact that you got Hall, Stankoven, and Jankowski, 21 games, 8 games, and 8 games, already bought it from the start, winning games, producing. You'll gladly take that. They found the roles, doing what they need to do, and helping the Hurricanes win, and all that really matters. So, in the end, great additions. Cannot wait to see what these guys can do moving forward. Well, in terms of moving forward, that will be the end of the first edition of Locked On Hurricanes. Thank you for making your first listen today. For your second listen, well, check out Locked On NHL Podcast, bringing you the daily league-wide stories that matter with the local coverage you love from Locked On. Find Locked On NHL on YouTube or listen to the podcast. If you want to keep up with me, I'm at OneShoeZach on X. The podcast is LO_Hurricanes. I'm also on Blue Sky, the Zachary Martin, where I have links in all my bios where you can find my Carolina Hurricanes articles at thehockeywriters.com. AHL coverage, well, it's theCalderTimes.com. Maybe you want to check out my baseball stuff. Well, coveringthecorner.com, talking about the Cleveland Guardians. If you want to check out my other podcasts, well, it's the Searchcast on all podcast platforms and on YouTube. For this show, well, it's Locked On Hurricanes on Spotify, Google, Apple, iHeartRadio. Follow, subscribe, leave a 5-star rating and review because I might just read it on the show. For YouTube, well, it's Locked On Hurricanes. Subscribe, hit the bell notification so you don't miss the show. Hit the thumbs up to let me know if you like the show as well. Share it with all other Caniacs so they become everydayers just like you. But I hope everyone enjoyed the Thursday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. Enjoy your Thursday. And until next time, as always, let's go, Canes.